So here I am under my lovely wife's 2001 Mazda 626, which has been making clunking sounds over the slightest bumps in the road, straight line, even cracks in the driveway and things. Got underneath, couldn't find anything loose, but I did feel a little bit of sway, a little bit of play in the sway rod. So looks like these bushings might have a little wear on them. I'm gonna go at sway bar bushings for my first shot. I squirted these retaining bolts about 2 days ago with some PB Blasted, and I'm gonna find out now if it did what it's supposed to do. Looks like it did. Using a 1/2-inch breaker bar, a 14mm high impact socket, I'm using a 6-point socket because 6 points are much less likely to round the head of stubborn bolts, and this one seems to be coming out pretty easily. This is the driver's side bracket, and you might want to note that the nut on the upper side of this bracket that holds this bushing is welded on, so you're not going to get very far trying to take that off. Just take the one out from underneath. And there are two bolts holding on this bracket, and one is in the front. We'll get that now. We're looking at that same bracket, driver's side, from the front of the car. I'm going under again with my breaker bar, 6-point socket to break it loose. Then I'll change over to a ratchet. Looks like I need a little extension on that. See if this is long enough. Yeah, looks good. And it looks like we broke that one loose. I think one of the best liquids ever invented after beer is probably PB Blasted. It penetrates and loosens just about anything. And this thing's coming out. The brackets, one retaining bolt, one retaining nut are both off. It looks like this thing's loose. Ready for removal. Pull that sway bar out and she pops right off. Isn't that wonderful? I didn't think it was going to come off that easy. Bracket. There's bushing. There's the bracket. So here's my trusty breaker bar, 1/2-inch drive ratchet, 14mm heavy duty 6-point extension. Here's the bracket that held the bushing. Here's the old bushing. Here's the new bushing. Here's the bracket retaining nut. Here's the bracket retaining bolt. And if you look at these bushings, you'll see the new one definitely is smaller diameter. I'm hoping that's wear, and I'm hoping this one solves my problem. If not, I'll be looking somewhere else. Here's my PB Blaster, one of my favorite liquids. And here's a semi-liquid that Permatex, Anti-Seize, a couple companies make this stuff. It's graphite based. Put it on the threads of these retaining bolts, nuts, and you'll never need penetrating fluid again. You can park these things in salt water and they'll come off. Now I'm going to grease up the new bushing. There seem to be some mixed opinions on whether or not to lube suspension bushings. I think an unlubed bushing might give me some squeaking problems. I'd be replacing the Clunk with a squeak. So I'm going to lube up the new bushing with synthetic grease, which won't have any negative effect, injurious effect on the rubber. So that's what I'm going to do, and this is great stuff for fishing rods and boats, saltwater tolerant. So that's where we're going next. I'll grease this baby up. Okay, so bracket is not asymmetrical, so that thing can just get popped onto this rod. Whoops, dropped it. I try to clean the rod off a little before I did this. Now I want to get this thing on without trying to capture any sand in there. Put it in position. Bracket over it. If you put the bracket on the bushing before you do this, you can't get the bushing on the rod, on the sway bar. So you got to give these engineers some credit for figuring this stuff out, I guess. Okay, so now we're get that thing up on the stud. Got my nut with a whole bunch of anti-seize compound on it. Spin that thing on. At this point, I'm not going to tighten it too much. Come on, baby. Then I'm going to go around the back and get that other one in. Back on the driver's side rear again. So far it's all been drivers. Back in the front. Now I'm sure there's a torque spec on here, but I'm just going to make it tight. I hope I never have to take it off again. That's the driver's side. Definitely no free play there now. Let's hope the Clunk goes away with it. Also want to keep in mind that by having both of these wheels off the ground, I don't have any torsion in this sway bar, so it just lays there. It's not going to pop or come off and hit you or anything like that. I can't say that would happen if you had one side on a jack. It might be a more dangerous operation.